Two. What's good, family, and welcome to another episode of Jimmy Bond's podcast right here on Philadelphia Radio. I am here. We are rocking. Make sure you call us with your comments, your questions at 215-472-0881. Again, that's 215-472-0881. You also can email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. It's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. Also, family, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Jimmy Bonds Podcast, on TikTok at Jimmy Bonds Podcast, and make sure you join Jimmy Bond Podcast Facebook group. Let's continue to open the dialogue. Moving right along, family. Tonight. Well, I ain't gonna say tonight, this afternoon. We rocking and rolling. I have a special guest here with us. She is all the way from, I'm gonna say by my way, from the DMV area, but she lives out in somewhere else now. So shout out to the DMV family. But family, I am here with my friend, my cohort, Miss Angela Lewis. She is doing her thing, rocking and rolling. She is a brand strategist. Actually, she's a strategist accelerator. That's really what she is, a brand accelerator. So she moves your brand to a whole nother level. So let's welcome Angela to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
No, not today, Jimmy. This is all about you. We're going
Wait,
to turn the
what?
tables. See, you're going to learn a little bit something about me today as far as a strategic accelerator. We about to bump you up a little bit. How about that?
This is gonna be different. Now, see, I was not expecting this family. This is something different. So, I'm normally used to interview. I'm normally used to being the interviewer, and today I'm the interviewee. So, well, we go see how this gonna work out. I'm used to doing research on everybody else, but hey, look, sometimes you gotta talk about yourself too, right? Is that what you're saying, Angela?
Yes, your listeners need to know who you are, like your why and your who and where and everything, because it just doesn't pop out of thin air digitally, right?
No, it
So
doesn't.
I'm going to ask you some good questions today, some things your audience don't know. Are you ready? Because you look nervous.
Listen, I am nervous, but I'm ready. I'm ready.
So tell me a little bit something about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up? What did your background look like?
No, well, I grew up in Washington, D.C. Shout out to all my native Washingtonians. I grew up on the south side,
Let's go.
southeast, Good Hope Road, right over there, Good Hope Road, Martin Luther King, right next to the big chair. So all my people in DC, if you know about the big chair, definitely that's where I grew up at. My mother was a school teacher. She taught at Malcolm X Elementary, and she taught in DC public schools for about 25 years. And so I was a product of an
Hmm.
educator. And I didn't know too much about my father, but I knew he worked for Blue Plains. So if you grew up in DC
Okay,
and you grew up in the Southeast and
that
you
ain't
smell that
far.
smell, you know that Blue Plains. So
That's
my
right.
father worked, right? You know what I'm saying? So my father worked at Blue Plains. I didn't know him much. He passed away when I was 12. But my mother took a
I'm
very
sorry.
high interest. Yeah, yeah. Shout out to my pops. My mom took a real high interest in education and learning and stewardship and really knowing who you are as a person. And she fostered that really with not just in her own household, but also in her classrooms. And I got to see a lot of what she did growing up and how she kind of molded children into believing in themselves and to having more, you know, more belief about who they are. I think back then, growing up, we were surrounded by a lot of different things. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so DC in the 80s
Yeah,
was
it
a
wasn't a place to
monster.
be.
Was a
Yeah,
monster.
yeah,
And
yeah.
especially during that time in Southeast, it was crazy, right next to Anacostia. So,
That's
Berry
right.
Farms right there. I mean, so we had a different upbringing because my mother really didn't let us outside too much, but we knew what was going on outside. And,
Absolutely.
so she felt that it was vital for us to have a good educational environment. So, probably somewhere around like the fifth grade, she took me out of DC public schools and she put me in private school. And I ended up
Why
going
do you think
to
that is?
I think at the time I was having issues in my school. I think my father hadn't passed, but there was a lot of like confusion with him and I was acting out. I remember one time and I think she took me out. I was in the fifth grade, but like probably in the fourth grade, I remember I brought a knife to school because I was fighting with the bullies.
Okay.
And I beat the bullies up one day. They came back and caught me. They caught me outside. And the next day
Hey,
I brought
that's
a knife to
DC for
school.
you.
Like, listen. So you
That's
had to
DC
learn
for
early,
you.
right? So I think that gave her a little bit of a scare because that was out of my character. And so
Mm,
she felt it very important for me to get to a different environment educationally and just environment as a whole. So around
mm.
fifth grade, she enrolled me in Washington International School up in Cleveland Park, right near the zoo. And
That's a nice
that
little
was
hike.
yeah, it was. I used to take that journey every day. Back in the day, you could go to school by yourself when you was young. You know what I mean? I was what
Right,
10
right.
years old and riding the metro, like so. It's a whole different thing back then. Nowadays, I wouldn't have my daughter do that. My daughter's 10 right now. You couldn't get me
No,
to. I've never put on SEPTA in my
not
life.
in
You kidding
DC.
me? Definitely not in DC. But I that the hike really, I guess, as my basketball coach used to tell me, built character. Um, I was coming from a tough environment and going to that school. It sat up on this hill. It's probably about like a quarter mile from the metro stop. So you had to get off the metro and walk, and then you got to school. You still had to walk up this hill, and this hill was huge. And the school itself was actually the old residence of a Russian ambassador. So it had all these different like things on it, like you didn't even think existed in DC. Had like a big old mansion, had a cottage, had a flower house, had all this land on it. It was enormous. And you just didn't even know that these things existed in the city. And so my mother was like, she really wanted me to get into this school. She really thought it was important for me. And when I first started, I hated it. I didn't know none of the kids. I didn't look like none
That's
of
a
the
culture
kids.
shock.
Oh, you talk about major culture shock? It was one of them
That's
culture
a culture
shocks.
shock.
It was one of them things that smack you in the face, and you are now kind of like you. And what's the place I would call it? You're on cloud. You're on another moon, another planet, pretty much,
Another
and
dimension.
a whole
Absolutely.
nother dimension. And I'm sitting here as a 10-year old. I remember real well when I got there, probably like the first 2 months, I beat up this white kid. I don't know why I did it. I just thought I was going to, stake my claim. But I think that was really the adjustment for me. It was really me trying to adjust
Mm.
to this particular area. And I'm not on gangster, nothing like that, but it was just one of them things that like kind of just like, I'm gonna state my claim. Like, I'm the black kid, probably
So
one of
you put
two.
your shoes on the telephone wires. That's what you're saying.
Uh, yeah, I did. I did. I kind of made my presence felt. And
Okay.
that was like I said, that was a major adjustment. And I think after I kind of had that adjustment period, I settled in a little bit and realized the new world that I was in and kind of like what I was going to be expected, what was going to be expected of me. And that kind of I think that experience, the start of it anyway, opened up my paradigm, as they would say, to other worlds and other people and other cultures. And with
Absolutely.
that, with that being one of the things that I started to understand, it just opened up my world. At that point, I always wanted to go to school. You couldn't stop me wanting to go to school. I mean, they had sports, they had, you know what I mean, they had all the things that you want to have. They had a theater, they had, teachers and teachers that bang with you. You know what I mean? So it
Right.
was a whole it just gave me a different feel about myself. And I wasn't the best academically, but I found my lane at that school where I fit in, where I could be, how I could operate, and that gave me probably one of the best starts. Probably one of the best starts. So I went there from fifth grade until I graduated high school in 12th grade, and
That's
I had
awesome because
I had a great time.
being in that area and both of you and I know a lot of people who didn't have that opportunity. A lot of them are still in that area. They
Yeah,
still in that same struggle bus because
yeah,
their lens wasn't ever open. Their paradigm never shifted. Their frontal lobe closed in the place that they started, so they didn't go any further. So I
yeah.
applaud your mom for, first of all, finding the courage to do it and then finding the means. Because I'm quite sure that was an extra effort on her part, and she made sure that you were taken care of.
Well, I
Um,
mean, even with the means part, like that's one of the things I always thought about. You see, me going to that school wasn't just about me going into that school, they embraced me as their own, and they embraced me as
Mm-hmm.
family. The school costs $15,000 a year, and this is from fifth grade to 12th grade, right? And I had a
Mm-hmm.
scholarship. I had a scholarship in the beginning, and by the time I graduated, my mother was not. She wasn't working. She hadn't worked probably for
Mm.
about. My mom hadn't worked probably for about 5 or 6 years, and
Mm.
during that period of time of me going to this school, we were homeless, and
Wow.
how the school allowed me to go for that period of time, it's kind of like they wiped out all my school, all my debt I would have had, and just was like, no, make sure he finishes. And
Wow.
it wasn't even about like, they saw a child, they saw a kid who had potential and ambition and in different walks of life, what he saw, what they saw in me. And instead of trying to penalize me for my mother not being able to afford to go to school, they felt it important that I get this education and I get these foundations and I move
Ooh.
on when I graduated. So whenever it comes to this school, my classmates may feel different. Um, particularly ones that look like me. There was very few of us there. They might feel different about it, but in
Mm-hmm.
terms of me and my experience, whenever it comes to this school, you will never hear anything bad come out of my mouth. And
Mm.
I think that gave me those experiences were my foundation to who the person I am today. And
I
it
agree.
gave me, it gave me such a they planted so many seeds in me. That's really what I can say. They planted so many seeds of wisdom, seeds of ambition, seeds of things I would have never seen before in my life. And I tell people all the time, like I went to school with ambassador kids and kids' parents work for the World Bank and the IMF and State Department and all that list. I mean, even people that worked in high positions in other countries. Like these are kids, their parents. I went to school with these kids, and you start learning and start seeing. You go over their house and you're like, what? Oh my God, what? This is the way y'all
Right.
living?
It's gold on the walls.
you know,
That's
it's
paint.
you just like what? This is crazy. But I speak on that because like and experiencing all this and going through the school and all this stuff, like in my real life at home, we were living in a hotel. So you really had to understand like your whole brain, your whole being, yourself is really two different people. You know what I mean? So I would go to
Yes.
school and have this experience in my school and these great things that I had access and resources to, but I would go home and I would have none of that. And
Right.
it kind of I think that's a critical balance you have to have in life. I realized that, even from a young age, I was living in two different worlds. So there's a fine line between it. You know what I mean? There's a fine line between
Mm-hmm.
being what quote unquote people say successful and being homeless. And that
Absolutely.
that fine line, I think I've lived most of my life just understanding that like at any given point something can be taken away from you. So value everything that you have and value the opportunities that you get and take them to heart and use them for your fuel where you're going next instead of just being like, yo, I used to live like this, so blah 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 blah. Like, no, take those experiences and know that they're for you to grow in. You know what I mean? I don't shy away from telling people I was homeless as a child. I don't. I never do.
But
Um,
think about it. It was it was it was still a success, even though you were homeless. That were still it was a still success in you being homeless. Because look at all the lessons that was that were created out of you being homeless, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know what not to do. You know how to prepare yourself. You know how to eliminate things so you won't go there. You'd rather go without than go homeless again, right? So
yeah,
it
yeah.
was still a success in that story,
It
right?
was
Even though
not.
you saw
It very much so.
right.
Very much so. Very much so. I don't think that
Yeah,
it. I think success. When you look at success, of course, the success is judged by each other person. Like how you see it is how you see it,
right.
right? But when I was growing up, everyone judged success by what you had, and today I judge it differently. I judge it based off what are my roots, what are my foundations, what are my core beliefs, and am I sticking to my core beliefs when I do the things I do? That's success to me, anyway. And that comes from living
100%.
that way I did before. You know what I mean?
100%.
So the values of the lessons that I learned in the process, I don't take lightly. Like, yo, I've lived in affluent areas. I know what it's like to live in Georgetown. I can tell you I lived in a gated community in
Right.
Georgetown for 2 years. I can tell you that. Now, was that my house? No, it wasn't my house, but I lived there. So you know what I'm saying?
There you
So,
go. It was your
you know,
address.
it's right. It was my address. So you had different spaces. I lived, like I said, I grew up in Anacostia and I ended up living in Georgetown by the time I was 17.
That's right.
So
Right.
it says to you that you can have different types of experiences and understand that the value of how you live. Put it see this way: even though I was homeless, I always knew there was more and there was other things that I could achieve. Being homeless didn't make me
Absolutely.
feel like I was gonna be like my world was over. It made me be like I want more out of life. I want more for myself. I want more for my family, even the family that I can't even provide for at 15, 16 years old. I want more for them, right?
Right.
But it, but as I got older, that same wanting more became even me who I am today. So it wasn't about like, oh man, I was homeless. It was like when you at the bottom, you can continue to move up, continue to be better at your things, continue to get better at it, and know that you can always achieve more, even at your worst, even at your worst. And that's why for me, my motto is stay up, don't sleep in your dreams because I feel like that's the way you're supposed to live life. Like when I was homeless, I had to keep telling myself that, boy, you better listen. We got to go. Like don't stress about your
So let's
circumstances.
talk about that. Mindset. How important is that?
I mean, I think it's vital. I mean, your mindset has to be um I'm not gonna say ultra positive because I think that's sometimes toxic, but your mindset has to be motivating and belief and believing you can achieve what it is you put your mind to. That sounds so cliche, right? It sounds so cliche,
But it's
but I
true.
think it is true. And I think if my mother used to talk about affirmations and how important affirmations were to speak out and live by and kind of remind yourself of who you are. I that's kind of things I've had to been. So when I might get down, it's those affirmations that keep me reminding myself, like, you've already achieved X, Y, Z, so you can do this too. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
it gave me such an understanding of life and death is in the power of the tongue. So if whatever I'm speaking out of my mouth, I'm hoping it's going to be extremely positive, uplifting, motivating, not just to myself, but to those I talk to as well. So that's
Absolutely.
kind of how it is. So that's my mindset. And my mindset also is, if I'm being an example for somebody to go after what it is they want out of life, whatever it may be, whatever industry they're in, if I can be some kind of motivating factor, then I'm doing my job, right? It's not just about me motivating myself. It's also motivating the people that see me, that recognize me, that come into my space. Might come on a radio show, might do a song with me, might see me at a performance, might be a part of my one of my workshops, whatever it may be. It's always a motivating factor that you're here because you want to achieve something. So let's give you some motivation to achieve it.
I love that. And I know I did know this about you because I didn't look you up, but it's some things I did find you when I was looking for stuff for my clients. Um, I know you rap.
Sure do.
Which part of your being do you rap from? Do you rap from do you rap from where you came from? Do you rap from what you've experienced, or do you rap from where you're going? Which part of your being?
Oh, yo, that's a fantastic question. I think a bit of both. I think a bit of through all three of them in particular. Um, I become very much a storyteller within my music, right? I become very much a person
Okay.
that can reflect on things and write about them. And so there are times when I write about my past and what that was like growing up and the stories that I would write about. There are times that I write about what's going on presently with me. With not just with me, but actually what's going on around me, even politically, you know what I mean? And then there's also a time where I rap about my future, where I'm going, not just where I see myself, where I know I'm going to be. And those three things, and I guess it all entails bonds together, and that makes me who I am. So I rap from all three. I think that's the greatest thing that I don't think anybody's ever like kind of helped me break down. those three particular spaces, you know. But I feel like I'm all three of them. I Some days I feel like I rap from my past. Some days I rap about what I'm doing right now. Some days I rap about where I'm going, and that's the biggest thing for
Okay.
sure, for sure, for sure.
That's beautiful. That means you're
Yeah.
not stuck, you know.
No,
You're being
no,
present.
no, and you know,
So it's
present
all
being
about, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say
Go ahead.
being present also plays a part in reflecting on your past, and also plays a part also into
100%.
where you think you're gonna, you know, what you want to achieve. So I think it makes up who you are as an artist. And I write from my heart. I write from my experience. I write from my heart. I write from what my soul was telling me to write about. Um, I
Hmm.
don't write songs without purpose. That's just the way I've always been. Every song I wrote had a purpose for it. Even if it was something crazy and raunchy that I probably shouldn't have did when I was younger, it still had a purpose to it. The purpose was for me to either one or two things, either spread this message that I'm spreading or keep getting better at the craft. And those were the two things I always looked at, you know. So music for me, that's my foundation. That's how I got on them stages.
So
Yeah.
when did you find your voice?
And music
No,
or
period.
oh
Your
period.
voice, because you
Whew,
use it. So you use this in so many areas in a daily basis, right?
I do.
In your day to
I do.
day, and then in all the things that you do, you use it in music, you use it on the podcast. But
Yep.
there are other things in the community. We'll talk about that in a moment. But where did you find your voice? Where it's like, I can use this to help people. I can use this to make a difference.
I'll tell you a story. Um, One day when I was on my grind, I left DC. And you know, if you're from DC and you come to Philly or the Philly area, you talk about like, you know, a culture shock, right? So coming up here and doing music, you know, coming up here and
It's
doing music,
different.
it's completely different. Coming up here and
Yeah.
doing music. So I was doing music in DC, now I'm coming up to Philly trying to transfer my music up there, and sometimes it doesn't
But
work
that's
out
two
the
different
best, right?
sounds.
Completely two
Yeah,
different
that's two
sounds. You
different
get It's
sounds.
completely two different sounds. And so one day, I was doing a bunch of shows and I was meeting people, and it was going cool. It was good. I got invited to this show out in Spring City, PA, which is probably like a half hour outside of Philly. And
Okay.
this show was with one of the big name dudes who was out here. His name was Mike Stu, white boy who could just rap crazy. He was nasty. He is. He's still doing it. But I got to this show and I came up for my set, and I'm doing this song called Rolling with Jimmy. And the song was like, it was real melodic, you know, it was real smooth. I tell the story about just we going on a trip. I'm taking you out of where you are. We're gonna get in this car, we're gonna go. So I'm telling this story. And I'm looking at the crowd as I'm telling this story. The lights are where they are. And I'm looking at the crowd. And as I'm going into the hook, they start singing it with me. And
Wow.
this place was packed. This wasn't just like this. Probably place had like 400 people in it, right? So I'm doing my song, and they got the hook, and they started singing it with me. By the end of the song, they were all like banging it heavy. Play the beat again, play the beat again. They just singing the song with me, and I sat there then, and what I was watching and what I saw like shocked me. And it shocked me because
Mm,
these people, I'm not from this area. I'm not from Philly. I'm not from
right.
Spring City. I'm not from Montgomery County. I'm like, how is it that I'm standing on this stage and these people are receiving my music? That's when I really thought to myself, like, I found who I am in all, you
Mm,
know, I found who I am. And then shows after that just kept going the same way. I performed at World Cafe Live, and I was doing stuff. I was being creative in that, and people loved that stuff. So it just became one of them things where I found how I could use my voice in different disciplines. And you know, with everything I do, my motto is if you're gonna get on that stage, you better kill it at all times. Like you don't
that's
hold
right.
nothing back. You better kill it. This is the only opportunity you get. You know, Eminem said you get one shot, but every shot I get, I'm gonna keep killing it every time. And that's kind of like been my motto with everything: podcasting, music, documentary I'm shooting, all of that. Like it's just you better kill it because you know you only get one chance. So I felt like I felt like finding my voice really helped me figure out who I was. And
So with that, you sound like more of a human being instead of just a human doing.
you can,
So in that case, explain to us why that's better.
I think being a human being, it's funny you said that. Quick little story. Back in the day, I used to be in this rap group, and we one day we were sitting around just talking, whatever, whatever, and we gave each other superhero powers, right?
Oh,
And
that sounds fun.
and the this one dude had his power was strength. He could lift up a whole bunch of other stuff. One dude was like he could see through rooms or something like that. And my power was the power to make you feel like a human being. And I said to myself, I was like, that's kind of
Wow.
yeah. I said to myself, that's kind of crazy because I feel like at first I thought I was kind of soft. Like, why you gonna give me some soft thing like that? Everybody else got crazy, whatever. But the power to make somebody feel like they're human or even seen and recognized is something you can never purchase. It's something you can't
100%.
avoid. So, I remember that distinctly being something that somebody told me back then. But as I, went on my careers in the corporate America and music and whatever I was doing, I found that to be a power that I help embrace. I feel like you have to be able to talk to people and understand where they are, even on a one-on-one intimate basis. I think a lot of us want to blow up, but it's those intimate conversations that you have with people that can change people's
Yes,
life. It's those intricate things that we do sometimes that you don't know why you're doing it, but you're doing it, you're changing lives in the process, and
100%.
I tell people all the time when they come on a podcast, I give them not just the credit of what they deserve or the accomplishments that they've already achieved. It's like I give them this platform to say, like, you are great at what you do. If nobody has told you this before, I'm going to tell you now. And that's always the way I've been. And that's the way my mother raised me. She didn't raise me to come around and beat people down over the head about their mistakes, about where they had faults, anything like nature. She told me you have to uplift people. And I think uplifting people is not just a blessing, it returns to you later on. And it's the value of
Absolutely. And that's kingdom.
it is. It's the value
That's
of
kingdom.
communication. It's kingdom. You're right. It's complete kingdom. And if I'm gonna be in the kingdom, if I'm gonna be in the kingdom and God wants me to sit on the throne as a king, I got to make sure I treat people the same way at all times. I can't just be, I'm Jimmy Bonds, the podcast, and this is all I do. Like I actually care about people. I care about where they're going. I care about how they feel about themselves. I care about that. Um, just because somebody cared about it for me, and I know that if I needed it,
Absolutely.
somebody else would get the same. So yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about that. So it's a couple of things that you just said, but let's lean on your experiences that you create for people to have those intimate moments
Mm,
and how you want to have that look in about 3 to 5 years.
yeah. That's a really interesting thing. Like I think intimacy, beyond what people think about it, it's not just sex or whatever. It's really about getting to know people one on one. It's getting to know people in a real people being able to share what they wouldn't share in normal spaces, right? Um,
Hmm.
so like if I do the podcasting, people come on the podcast, I get intimate with them because I'm going to research you. I'm going to find out who you are. I'm going to ask you questions about things you might have posted, or things you might have wrote, or something a publication said about you. I'm going to ask these questions, and a lot of people don't expect you to dive that deep into them. But that's what I
Hmm.
expect. I expect you to if you're gonna come on the show, I want you to know that I'm going to find out who you are, and me doing that allows them to kind of bring down the walls and open up and be more open to discuss things, be able to share things, be able to cry if they need to, be able to laugh if they need to, be able to reflect and
Hmm.
be like, yo, man, I effed that up. Like just being able to have that kind of conversation with somebody, particularly, my team's motto is we bring in clients, but they leave as family. And because every person that
Mm.
comes in with us, by the time they have our experience, they felt like they're rejuvenated and they felt like they have people that they can connect with and relate to. So that intimacy in everything we do is not just part of our whole branding idea, but it's part of how we connect with people closely. You know what I mean? And I think just thinking about the things we've done from the podcast to our TV show called A Taste and Talk that's coming out next year. We invite a bunch of people, black women, black men, women and men in general, just invite them in a room and have them talk about relationships. We did a large one and then we did an intimate one where it's 8 people at a table talking about relationships. And you start to find, you sit people in the room and you start to find that people actually want to share certain aspects of themselves in an environment that is safe, where they won't be judged or they won't feel like they can't say certain things. And when you create that kind of space for people, it's only going to be magic that happens. It's only going to be things that you just would have never seen that happen. So, I always feel like it's a blessing when I get in intimate settings that we put on and people share what they share. I feel so blessed and humbled by it because it's like why did you feel so comfortable to say that? You know what I mean? Why did you feel so
Yes.
why did you feel so
Yes.
safe to say that? And the fact that you do, for me, is I thank God every day for it, because if that's the work that He has me doing, then so be it. So be it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So how does that, so going from the beginning of our conversation, how does your change in environment that impacted you as a kid now impact the lives that you change on a daily basis? Like, how do you think that aligns, and how do you think you use what you learn subliminally to help people overcome things like you did as a kid?
Wow. That's a great question. I think it's being able to relate to where people are. I don't ever want to come off that I've never been in people's spaces. I think people see you in a certain light. They see you doing certain things, and they don't think you've been where they are. And when you start speaking about certain things, they realize that you have. And those lessons that I learned are lessons for me today, where I can actually pour into people's spirits just in terms of my own personal experiences. And that goes to relate. Like I said, people come on the show sometimes and they start sharing stuff and they open up, and then I open up with them. And they sit there and they look at me and be like, I never would have known that about you. And it's because sometimes no, most of the time when I do stuff, it's not about me, it's about them. And
100%.
so it's never about let me tell you my story and overshadow you. No, this is about you. You're on my platform, but we're gonna highlight what you do. But my lessons that I've learned have taught me how to share with people, how to relate to people, how to open up to people, how to ask questions. How to ask certain questions, not just open-ended questions, as they say, but questions that really dive into people's beings, who they really are deep down, um, and not assuming who they are, letting them really explain who they are. I don't think, for me, my transition from, like, say for example, being homeless and having to figure it out, can relate to people right now, people that are in their own travels trying to figure it out themselves. You could,
Yeah.
if you've been there with somebody where they are, it's more than likely you're going to understand. If you're walking across the street and there's a homeless person right there and they ask you for something, maybe it's a couple of dollars, maybe to get you something to eat, right? Who cares what they're going to use it for? A lot of people judge people that are homeless, like, yeah, but they're going
Right.
to use it for
Right.
whatever. No,
That's
just
not your business.
none of my business, right? If
All right.
if I have it, I always start to give it because I've been there. I know what that's like.
Absolutely.
I know what that environment is. And my siblings could probably tell you even worse than they had a little. My younger siblings had a little worse than I did. They could tell you even more horror stories of what it was like when I'm growing up. And I think that the lessons that we pick up as we see these things and work through these things, we can see later on in life with other people. And sometimes at point of turn, this is exactly what I always say. Sometimes the experiences that we go through are not for you. You're going through
100%.
them, right? You're going through them, but they're not for you. They're for the people you're going to be speaking to later on. And when you have that kind of
Absolutely.
understanding about it, it makes everything else simple. So those lessons that I learned, I related to say that this, I went through those things. Yes. Were they tough times? Were they challenging times? Yes. Okay. They were extremely challenging. But as I'm here now and I'm speaking about it now, I realize that if not, people say if I could do it, you could do it. Like, no, no, those challenges were for me to speak about
No.
today. To speak to those people who might be going through it today. Because not everybody's gonna tell you what they're going through. Not everybody's gonna be like, hey, well, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. But if I could be transparent, who knows who this might help? Somebody might be going through that right now and see it and be like, I'm going through that same thing. And it is what it is. So I think that's just a critical aspect. Like you gotta realize your challenges are not just for you, they're for everybody else too.
Yeah, I tell my kids all the time, it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. And you'll see that
Yep.
later. You don't see it now. It
Yep.
sucks right now,
Yeah, it
but
does.
it's happening for you. And you'll see later on those dominoes and those little things. It's like, ah, so you set me up. I have those conversations with God about, oh, so you set me up. Okay. I see it now. Or, I took
Yeah,
that job over here, or I had this thing happen to me, or I ran into this person, or I know this weird fact because, oh, I need it right now. It's really strange how it's all full circle
it
and
does.
you don't know
It does.
why. And I tell my clients this, like, regardless you're going to Nineveh, it's up to you how long it takes you to get there. You can take the long way, you can take the short way,
This short
but you
way. Yep.
going.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
You
But
going.
that's
And
I mean
and
that
in
that's
that
what it is though.
process, things are gonna happen. Things gonna happen.
Huh?
That's life, you
Huh?
know.
Yeah.
And like I said, it sucks when you can't see the forest for the trees, but once you get out,
Yeah.
all that stuff
We
kind of
don't
goes behind you and may
Yeah, no, it's true. It's
go
true. I
ahead.
mean, we don't know why we go through things, right? We don't have a clue why certain
No.
challenges come. We be sitting around like, why did this happen? Did this happen? Everything's running smooth, and then all of a sudden, and we fight against it. We fight against those transitions and those
Mm-hmm.
adjustments. We don't want them to happen. But really, for real, it's all growth. It's all growth. It's all about you growing as a person. It's all about you growing
Yeah,
as an
it's all the
individual.
process. Trust the
Yeah.
process.
Trust the process. No 76 is included. Like it's
Trust the
definitely
process.
trust the process. You have to. And a lot of us don't. A lot of us want what we want. We
Right.
want what we see. We want what we see. I mean, trust the process in every aspect of life, not just your career, not just your relationship
Yes.
or your marriage, not just your kids, not just, everything that you do, you have to trust the process and where you're going. And, even though we don't want to, sometimes we do. So yeah, yeah,
It's crazy. Especially when you have kids. So I have two. So with the first one, she's like, Mom, you're tough for me, blah, 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 blah. I was like, well, by the time you get past the first one, you ain't kill that one. He was like, all right, this next one is even more resilient because I got this. I got this. And the more kids you have, the more like, yeah, I got this. But we
yeah,
have to give each other grace. We got to, not only each other, we have to give ourselves grace, right? Because as one of my kids, my oldest says, this is our first time around, right? And while we're here, give yourself grace to know that this is the first time, right?
yeah,
And in your knowing, just be better. If you're
yeah.
1% better every day, that's going to get you closer to your goal. No matter what you do,
Always.
try to be at least 1% better. If you can do
Yep.
that, and when you do fall forward, okay, it really doesn't matter as long as you keep taking those two steps forward. Even if you hit one step back, you still got at least one going forward. So
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
process, of going through, in that process of the darkness and all of those things, make sure you build that kingdom up from your mouth. You want to make sure all of your words, you want to build a kingdom, don't tear it down. It is not worth it because all it does is make you stay longer. So
Yeah,
if you keep your mindset right, you are grateful in the process, even when that thing don't look good. You think
because
about all the
it don't look
positive
good.
things.
Yeah,
Let me tell y'all,
yeah,
y'all don't know about that trek he did from Southeast to Northeast, Northwest. That's
yeah.
a nice little trek. And I'm quite
It is.
sure that first 2 months you was like, oh no,
Yeah, it was cold
this is
in the
for the
rain, in
birds.
the snow, all of it. Yeah, it was for the birds. It
This
was
for the
definitely for the
birds.
birds. It
Metro
definitely
don't
was.
always work.
And right, the bus don't always go as supposed to go. Listen, it's definitely them snowstorms back then was completely different. So, you
Oh
know,
my gosh.
you were shut in. Some days I had to still go to school. I mean, and that's the thing, like you don't a lot of times you don't realize why you had to do certain things the way you had to do them. And I could have
Hmm.
easily said, no, I'm not going to the school no more. I'm about to go back to school that's close to my house. I'm gonna go to a different high school, blah, 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 blah. And it was one of them things where it was like, nah, you're gonna keep making this trek every day. Every day I made that trek every day. And it built character. I mean, I tell you what it did too. It actually made me it actually kind of that was the process of me learning how to rap was that track. Like I would actually listen to music all day
That's a lot of
from
alone time.
a lot of long times and a lot of motivation time. Like I got to get to the school, at a certain time. But it taught me, it really taught me how to kind of like keep my brain fixated on something I was doing. And so I would walk to school and write raps while I was doing it, not on paper, but just in my mind. And so, by the
Hmm.
time I got home, sometimes I had certain raps. So it was little pieces and nuggets in that track that I kind of really valued, really valued. So I don't look at it as a bad thing. It was a beautiful thing, beautiful thing.
So with that travel, did that make different type of travel plans for you? Because you went from DC to Philly, but was there any other travel that happened because of your experience?
Oh yeah, yeah. When I was
Like, because some people, like I said, there's some people that just stay in DC.
yeah,
You move.
no,
So,
when I was 17, I actually took my first trip to Europe. And I was dealing one of my classmates was this white girl, ended up being my girlfriend, white girl from Norway. And she actually we fell in love real fast at 17. I was 16, 17. We couldn't separate us. And I think that one school year I met her in 11th grade, and in school that summer I was traveling to Norway and visiting a foreign land I had never visited before. And
mm,
it really that was really a mind opening experience because it showed me so many different things. It showed me how people relate to black folks over there. It showed me how society runs in a whole other country. It showed me just some of the privileges that people have in other places. It showed me so much in terms of just what possibilities were. And I think I was with her for like 9 years. And I think after that I've gone to Norway like
mm.
11 times, something like that. And so I've been to
Oh,
Norway
wow.
so many times, and I went to France, I went to England, I went to Spain, I went to Greece, I went to Denmark. I mean, I just started traveling
Wow.
with her, So she was a traveling fool, and we just went all over the place, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I never take that for granted. And sometimes, like you say, sometimes you don't know why you're doing stuff, but more than likely, I was with her because I needed to go see the world for sure. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
not not because I didn't
Yeah.
love her. I mean, don't take that the wrong way. I mean, but when you think about
Right.
things happening, then maybe that's what God wanted me to do. But boy, let me get you out of here. Go see what else is going on in these other countries. And getting to
Right.
see
It's
that
and
just
how did you see how did you view from okay, because I learned this, right? When you leave the country, United States seems so different when you're away from home.
yeah, it does.
Like the news you're getting, the information you're getting is so different
Yeah.
when you're not there.
Hmm.
how does that influence your political views now?
Um, I'm such a news junkie. I read the news so much that comes from my years of working in a newspaper. I worked at a newspaper doing journalism. So when I was over there, I got to see how certain messages were relayed to the society, to the people that read, to the public, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
it 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 made me start to say that America pushes certain stereotypes to other countries that we take for granted. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a foreign country. I mean, I used to when I first met some of her friends, my ex's friends. When I first met some of them, all of them thought I had a gun. That was the
Mm.
first thing they asked me was, "You got a gun?" And because that's what they think of America, right? But it was one of the things too. You often you have to be. It's weird. It's a weird thing when you go into these places. You represent two different entities that I don't think people realize a lot of times. You represent you're an American, right? So that's one part. And B, you're a Black American. So that's two parts. So in representing that, you even have to kind of like destigmatize these people based on who you are to get them to see that there are other examples of not what they see on TV. And
Yes, correct.
I always used to take that and I used to have a lot of pride with that because I would always have to and make sure they understood that we're not all like that. Whatever you seen on TV, whatever the
Right.
propaganda is, whatever they pushing out like that, we're not all like that. And sometimes even people who might be racist, if you give them an example, that might change their mind. And I'm not trying to say that that's your
Absolutely.
job. I'm not trying to tell you it's your job to change the racist mind or it's your job to whatever, but I do think it's my job to change ignorance. I do think that. I
Mm.
do think it's my job to kind of open your world up to be like, nah, we're not all the same. We're not all like that. Don't get it twisted. We're whatever you think of a particular race of people or group of people or nationality of people, that's not really how it goes. And I think the way I went about it kind of broke down some of them barriers. And before I knew it, I had a bunch of Norwegian friends. I was
Well,
working with a
that was
Norwegian
fantastic.
producer. You know what I'm saying? So
See?
like, so you get to really see how like you being yourself actually can change people's perspectives.
Well, I'll tell you this. There was one young lady that I had met in Dubai. Um, and we ended up being friends afterwards. And so she was dating someone in Serbia, and she was from the Philippines.
Mm.
And she kept hearing this rumor about this black girl being in Serbia. Blah, 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 blah about this black girl. So she goes to the preacher because her and the guy were getting serious, and he knew exactly who she was. He said, "How do you know?" He said, "I was ready to meet the black girl that they kept talking about." She said, "Me?" So imagine if it was me. Cause yeah, because of stereotypes. And she was
Yeah,
from the Philippines.
yeah, yeah.
And they're talking about, and that's from, like you said, television. That's from
Mm-hmm.
propaganda.
Yep.
That's from, misrepresentation of
Mm-hmm.
cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also in cultures that are not mixed, like a lot of the South American countries, Spain and Puerto Rico and blah blah blah, where you don't have that uh the melanin, you
Yeah,
know. When you do
yeah,
see a melanated person, no matter how much melanin it is, it's like, whoa, that's
yeah.
a little
It's different.
different.
It's different. Yeah, no. I mean,
Yeah.
when I would go over there, when I would go to Norway, and because I was Black American, they viewed me different than they say they viewed the Sudanese people that came to immigrated to those places, or the Ethiopians or the Ethiopians that might have immigrated there. Like they viewed me differently
Yes,
than they viewed them. And unfortunately, you try to say that there aren't class systems around the world, but there are,
it
you
is.
know,
It is.
and people, like I said, people think about certain people in certain aspects that they shouldn't, but they do anyway. And like you said, you got to break those stereotypes. You got to break them. And it's not like you go out intentionally be like, yo, I'm gonna break them stereotypes. You go out and you are who you are, which is gonna give them a
Yeah,
different
you
look
kind of
about it anyway.
find yourself in the
Yeah,
situations
yeah.
where you have
Sometimes you
to.
do. Sometimes you do. You get in them situations, you
Yeah,
be like, how'd I get in this? Okay, so how am I gonna navigate
yeah,
this piece? And that's the other thing, like, it's for me, it wasn't a code switch. It's how do you navigate, how you get in that area and navigate them, because they have such images of black people being so violent and we always fighting and the women shaking their butt all the time and selling drugs and all that kind
right.
of stuff. And from the music, that's what we promote the music all day. Like, so, when they meet something different, they see something different, their eyes are open, like, whoa, 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 what? It's not like that. Like,
Yeah.
no, it's not like that. So,
So let's talk
I
about code switching.
oh
Let's talk
yeah.
about that because, like you said, you don't have to do that there. When you leave the station, you don't have to code switch. Why do you
Mm-mm.
think we have to do that here?
I think because our society, American society, American culture is programmed. We're programmed for certain things. Even what we watch, what we consume, what we digest, all of it is fed to us in a certain kind of way. Um, even in our own culture, we got a code switch.
100%.
Sometimes when I'm talking to some of my brothers, like I have to talk to them a certain kind of way for them to understand what I'm saying. You know, um,
Absolutely.
I think code switching is really about understanding environment and relating. I look at the English language as 4 or 5 different dialects, and code switching there are 4 or 5 different dialects you might speak in a day, and that's just. I'm sorry to say this, as much as people hate, we shouldn't have to code switch. You do, because this is just the world we live
You
in.
do.
This is just the
Read the
world we
room.
live in. Read the room. So I
You
I
have to read
know
the room.
I know sometimes my vernacular is different than what people expect, but I always make sure that I understand who I'm talking to. And I
100%.
use verbiage that they can understand, that they can relate to, and I like I said, I had to think about that word because it's not that I'm dumbing anything down. It's I'm making it so that the person I'm speaking to understands. That's part of communication. That's part of working through that. I mean, I was in banking for 15 years. I worked in all kind of banks. I was a branch manager at 26. So I was rocking and rolling at a young age. But I remember always having to the people that you deal with, how you have to explain certain products and services to them will be different than the next person you see. It's not going to be the same. So in saying that, it's going to be the same thing out here in the world. Whatever message you're relaying, it may not reach certain people because they might not receive it a certain kind of way. And I think as I gotten away from corporate America, I realized that I don't have to code switch with my messaging, but I have to code switch when I'm out here
Good.
networking, when I'm out here talking to people, when I'm out here trying to solve solutions for my organization and for the podcast in general, right? I find that that's something you have to do. But my messaging, I would never code switch. I don't think that's something I
Mm.
don't think that's something that's in my fiber. You got to stick to your guns, as they say. I don't want what I put out to be misconstrued as something else. I want it to be received as
Yeah.
the way you
You don't
see
want
it.
that to be diluted.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at
Never
all.
dilute your message.
Never do it the message. So yeah, you're
So
right.
what?
And
So with that, uh, let's talk about your message. What is the biggest impact you want to make?
the biggest impact I want to make is being able to push people to the places they want to be in their life. Um, my message, like I said, my motto is stay up, don't sleep in your dreams. If you have a dream, if you have an ambition, if you have somewhere you think that you want to be, something that makes you not just content, but extremely happy, my message is to push you there. That's what I want. That's everything I do, from the music I make to the podcasting to the movies to the workshops to all that stuff that I'm doing. The purpose of it is to make sure that whoever is receiving this is pushed to another place, pushed to a place of achievement. Sometimes it has to do with healing. Sometimes it has to do with overachieving. Sometimes it has to do with challenges. Sometimes it has to do with victories even. But whatever that is, I want you to stay up, Stay motivated, stay positive, stay dedicated to what it is, stay committed to what it is, and do not sleep on the dreams that you've been given. And that's,
That's a
you know,
huge mic drop. That's a huge mic drop.
that's the
Yeah,
impact I want to make.
huge mic drop.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
the way I feel.
So I have one more question. We all have a purpose on this earth, and we all have potential, and we all have passions. So for me, when I leave here, I want to be empty. What would that look like for you?
Woo. Um, Empty for me. If I had to put, if let's say I ain't even gonna say that. When the time is said and done, and you know what people gonna remember about Jimmy Bonds is that um I poured my heart into everything I did, whether it was podcasting, music, consulting, producing, writing. I want everybody to always remember every piece, everything that had my name on it, I put my heart into it. And I want my heart to be seen through all my projects. And my heart's full of love. It ain't full of anger and despair. Um, I say it's full of love because that's what I feel like people need more of. You know, when I'm done, that's what I want people to remember. My heart was put into every single thing that I did, and the message of my heart was love, pure love, agape love, as they would say, right?
Hmm. I,
Pure
I
love.
love that. I do have one more. I have one more that just came out. What's your biggest dream that you could ever accomplish in giving that love?
You say my biggest dream I could ever accomplish, and what else?
And giving that love.
Oh, and giving that
I
love.
want you to
Wow.
dream big,
Wow. Okay, so you want to know?
like a ultimate and an ultimate dream. Like,
Okay, okay. So my
go
my
give
my
it up, Jimmy.
dream,
Go give it up.
my dream. Here's my dream. Here's my
The
dream. I
big
want to
one.
live the big one. It is big. I want my days to be filled with business, podcasting, love, ambition, and pushing people forward. I want my nights to be filled with me on the stage, killing the stage musically. My biggest dream is that I able to hit people in both realms on a regular basis every year round.
Let's make it happen.
That's
Let's
my
go,
biggest
Jimmy.
dream.
Let's go. Well, with
That's
that,
my biggest
I
dream.
know your audience didn't know of that about you, but I know now that they know,
Yeah.
they can dream with you and help you make that dream happen. So thank you for letting me interview you. I
Thank you,
appreciate it. This
Angela.
was fun.
This was fun. It's first time in a long time, and I'm glad I did it. I've never done it before, so being on this side is a little different. So to all the people I've interviewed over the years, if I made you feel some kind of way, I didn't. I'm sorry. I hope that I was able to do what Angela did. But Angela, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much, so much, family. You know, when you're
Thank you for letting me
interviewed.
doing this.
Listen, I didn't even know this was gonna be like this. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. If I look see the big old smile on my face. I'm absolutely loving it. This is what's up. I gotta do more of these, Angela. I gotta do more of these. I gotta do more of these.
Yeah,
But
bring me back anytime,
yeah,
anytime.
yeah, for sure. You're gonna be the one I call. And let me call up Angela so we get this interview going. Let me do that right now.
Hey,
But
I get my hair done up in Jersey, so we can make that happen.
but like next time we gotta have you in
Shout
studio.
out the
That's
visions,
was
visions right there, Mount.
that Mount
Shout out
Laurel?
the visions in Mount Laurel. I'm sorry, no,
Yeah,
they're not. They're in Haynes Point now. Shout out the visions in Haynes Point.
listen, shout out to Jersey. Even though I don't go over to Jersey often, shout out to Jersey. Shout out to Jersey. Shout out
That's
to
right.
Philly. Shout out to DC. Everybody in DMV area. Miss y'all. Love y'all, man. This is what we doing, right, Angela? This is how we going. This is what we doing. With family, I
That's
want to
right.
thank Angela for
This how we
rocking
do
out.
it.
This I want to thank Angela for rocking out with us each and every time. Remember, you call us with your comments and your questions. 215-472-0881. Again, that's 215-472-0881. You also can leave your comments at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. And as always, family, until the next episode, you can find us on Good Hope Road. Screaming, stay up, don't sleep in your dreams. And remember, please call somebody. Somebody you talked to recently, somebody you haven't talked to recently. Call them and tell them that you love them because you never know when you might get another chance. To my sister Angela, I'm Jimmy Bonds, and we out. Peace.